There's a hidden background between miniature war games and fantasy role-playing games. D&D originated from the desire to create stories about the characters involved in warfare, so much so that it sheared away mass combat to focus on one squad doing one thing at a time. I've often felt the desire to swing the dial back within D&D to get back to the drama of warfare, but it butted up against the bulwark of mechanical bloat. No matter what I tried to do, adding warfare in D&D seems incompatible with typical D&D play. It's got me thinking, what is the point of warfare in narrative? It represents the push and pull, the ebb and flow of the status quo. Whether it's differences in ideology, a power struggle, or a fight over resources, the reason you fight in D&D is the same reason nations fight on the world stage. Why do you delve into a dungeon to kill goblins? You may have many reasons. They have gold and you want it. Or they're agents of chaos and you have chosen to align yourselves with the forces of order. Maybe you're simply out to rescue hostages from their camp. No matter your reason, you're acting for the same reasons any world power would. You are enforcers of a certain status quo, and you are imposing it onto another. Violently, most likely. That's what D&D is. Obvious asterisk being that you can make D&D whatever you want, but we're talking about adventurers enacting violence or manipulation to impose their will. That's core to every action that the rules of D&D support. The details of the stories may change to involve nuance to a great degree, but the key point here is that the drama at the heroic scale is the same as that at the scale of the nation state. With that logic, the drama of a nation state should be able to be supported within the confines of a D&D campaign, but D&D rules only support action taken at the scale of heroes. In order to support a rule system like D&D, and indeed any novel or story that features characters that could identify as heroes or villains, we're going to be operating on Thomas Carlyle's great man theory. Simply put, the theory denotes that certain individuals are created with inborn talent to recreate and shape the society in which they live. Aside. Before we move on, I want to offer criticism of this theory because I believe it will add nuance to your stories and characters. Herbert Spencer, in the Study of Sociology, states, "The genesis of a great man depends on the long series of complex influences which has produced the race in which he appears and the social state into which that race has slowly grown. Before he can remake his society must remake him." My reading of this text is that Spencer is suggesting that the creation of a great man, while not inevitable or insignificant, is the product of society producing many such individuals, and over time is that when eventually the circumstances are right for that individual to find themselves in the position to make the change, they also have the capacity to see it through. That's an adventurer. Many old bones lie in forgotten crypts that pave the way for your party to take the center stage. One of the joys of D&D is also the ability to challenge old tropes, ones that rely on men of means typically making the change and realizing that the reality is that people of all types, especially women, were integral in making meaningful societal change. An aside. Practically, this means that your party of characters must within them carry the capacity to change and challenge the natural change of power between societies. You could call it main character syndrome, but I'm going to call it storytelling. The difference between our world and a fantasy one is that if a plucky hobbit didn't decide to travel with elves and wizards and dwarves to dunk a ring in a volcano, the status quo of Middle-earth would look a lot different than the way it does at the end of Tolkien's novels. Your characters make a difference. So how do you integrate them into the politics of the world? Ideally, if you are interested in telling this kind of story, you will work with the party to give them backgrounds that make them already ingrained with the politics of the society that they are in, or at least puts them on intersecting paths with leading members of that society. This allows you to create quests that begin to change the status quo of world powers. For example, a dragon guards a mountain pass, harrying the villagers nearby, causing no end of death and suffering for the people. The adventuring party takes up this quest and slays the dragon. The dragon, however, was guarding the only accessible path between two nations that were perpetually at a ceasefire due to the respective inaccessibility. With the dragon gone, war has broken out between the two nations, and the villages that the adventurers sought to protect are now looted and burned by the ravages of war. The adventurers, now rightfully annoyed by this, will likely choose a side to see the conflict brought to a quick end. Your party is now at war. Let's talk about tactics. Most often in war, tactics boils down to bigger number wins. Our enemy has 15,000 men, you say? Jolly good, we have 20,000. Now let's go down there and give them a good walloping. This works more often than not. However, there have been multiple instances throughout history where the party with the smaller force emerged victorious. The reason for this is down to a concept called tactics. One party did something clever that their enemy was not expecting, and they overcame the odds. This is devilishly good storytelling, and storytelling you must use if you want to use war in Dungeons and Dragons. Essentially, we want to use tactics to inform the narrative. An enemy is coming and it's stronger than our own. If we lose, it could mean thousands of innocents are killed. How do we win? Then the party comes up with something genius. I'm serious. Let those idiots start brainstorming. There's no way you, and certainly not me, can predict what those Walmart Sun Tzus will think of. The key is to let them think. Some of the best tacticians of legend used tactics that traditional men of war thought were foolish or silly, but they ended up humiliated by them. The party doesn't need to have the art of war memorized to know that fighting from a position of strength balances out some number disadvantages. That's what walls are for. They don't need to have read the Geneva Conventions to know that war crimes such as chemical weapons, poisons, and traps are actually really effective against conventional armies. They don't need to have read the Iliad to know that sometimes making the enemy think that they have already won is the perfect time to strike. The key is letting tactics inform the narrative. Always have the players start as the underdogs and let their ingenuity bring them to victory. If you're looking for specific rules about how to do mass combat, that could be its own video. I'll simply say for now, Matthew Colville has a good rule set in his Strongholds and Followers book, but if you're worried about rules bloat, just create meaningful combats against high-ranking enemies and let the general melee of war be the backdrop. Make occasional rolls, even if they're meaningless or predetermined, to see how the player's forces are doing. That's it, folks. Hopefully this got your gears turning on how to do war in D&D. My name has been Ben DeHart. Make sure to like and subscribe if you like the video, share it with your friends, and tell your past self to hold on to that holographic Charizard. I wish I did. See ya.